There he is.
I'm actually just crying in the other room about SOUN.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about your crying. So, Kenny, thanks for joining us today on the Off the Charts podcast. You are a well-known trader. You don't need much of an introduction, but I imagine there's a bunch of people out there who don't know how you got started in the business. Take us back to the beginning, like day one. How did that happen? How did you fall into this business?
My dad, in a way, actually, Big Al got me involved because
Big Al
got me involved because he taught me about mutual funds when I was about 4. So I was learning right from the get, and bar mitzvah money. I heard I got a lot of money for the bar mitzvah, but it had already been invested in some mutual fund. So I wanted to go investigate what he put my money in. And I was hooked. I got into a stock market, stock picking contest, like, 5th to 6th grade. So I was always interested. And once he started showing me how, accruing interest works and all that stuff, I've been hooked ever since.
So your dad worked in finance?
No, teacher, actually, but he was always hip to the market, always really was one of the first persons I ever heard say, buy the dip. And he was buying the dip in funds.
Not a market professional, but he was passionate about markets, passed that on to you at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and he did very well. So again, he got me in some good funds. And then when I cashed out, I was like, this is all my money? Thanks, Dad. So I got a good jump off there. And then, that wasn't the industry of my choice. I wanted to be in entertainment. I was working, Saturday Night Live. I worked in the record industry. I was at Arista Records when Biggie was blowing up. So that was exciting. I was there for the Juicy video. They brought it in right hot off the press. And then I went to work at the Jon Stewart show. And that's where I thought I was going to be. Working with Jon Stewart. He was a hero of mine. I got in there as a PA, just running around, helping out. And they just didn't have anything for me to do. And then I was still doing the stand-up comedy. I got on stage one day and some guy came up to me at the end of the show saying, hey, would you like to be a stockbroker? I was like, well, that was a curveball. I thought he was like an agent or something. He was wearing a suit at a comedy show. And it turned out to be just one of these guys from, Boiler Room right out of Long Island. And I got my bar mitzvah suit back on. It still fit. And I was out in Long Island pitching stocks, reading off a script, and it was just like the movie.
Wait a second.
When that movie came out,
this guy saw you slinging bullshit on stage and said, "Oh, this guy will make a great."
Exactly. I got to tell you, I don't remember the first stock we were pitching. It was the company that made the glow, the halogen around your license plate. And they also did, if you wanted to put those lights underneath your car. Right. Because that was big for like 40 minutes in Brooklyn. So that's what we were pitching. And it was right out of the movie. He's like, if you ever get someone that actually is interested, just scream my name. And it was just like they came tackling, grabbed the phone out of my hand and started pitching right away. So when I saw that movie, I was like, that was my life. It's so crazy.
Your first job in the business was working at a boiler room.
Oh, yeah, the worst. Yeah.
This is a similar story, though. So what was this, like late 90s?
This is 92, 93. Yeah.
90s?
92, 93, I went from one place to the next. And then I love when I got pitched another job. Somebody came up to me. He's like, well, you look a little confused here. We're going to be opening up our own firm. We're going to be doing IPOs. You're going to get a Series 7. And I was just like, wah, 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 wah. None of that made any sense to me, whatever. I was like, what's an IPO? And the guy's like, oh, you're going to be great. And I'm like, okay. The next thing you know, we were in the city. I was working at 2 Wall Street. I mean, come on. What an address. And it just turned out to be another schlock shops pitching IPOs where you had to buy them in the aftermarket. You couldn't sell it. We did the IPO at 4, it opened up at 6. Oh no, you can't sell at 6. You got to buy it at 6 right. Or you're fired. So
well, Kenny, just to complete your intro, I want to put a rumor to rest.
Right on.
I've been asked more than once. This is a true story, Kenny. More than once, I've been asked, is Kenny Glick the real fly? The blogger, the real fly? Is that you, Kenny?
No,
is that you?
No, definitely not me. But it was Josh Brown, the fly, and me, and we were all having that weird moment where we all thought we were each other, actually. And supposedly I met the fly. He reached out to me. He's like, we met at that party. I was like, no way. But no, it's not me. Is he still out there? I forgot about that guy. That guy
Talks
was,
about being from New Jersey. He's
yeah,
bald. I mean, he worked at the boiler room. I mean, a lot of similarities. I'm just saying.
yeah.
He sold his business recently, so people know who he is now.
Ah, cool,
Oh, I
cool.
guess I'm the last to know. Okay.
Right. I liked him. He was just angry and right to the point. So,
Hold on, back to the whole
yeah.
guy was recruiting at comedy clubs, and it sounds crazy, right? But what you're doing as a comedian, you're capturing an audience and telling a story and holding people's attention. When you get
Yeah.
on those phones, right? When you're working at these hot shops that you're talking
Yeah.
about, you got to capture someone's attention, tell them a story, and then sell them something. So that was the best skill that you could have on Wall Street back in the day was sales, not finance, not math, right? Sales.
Well, it's funny, when I finally went to the third boiler room when we had to actually take the seven, I was nervous. It was pretty much the only time, and since the only time I stopped smoking weed for more than 30 days. I wanted to clean out so I could study. I mean, I took my books with me on a ski trip with my girlfriend at the time. She's like, "Wow, you're really taking this serious." I'm like, "This is actually the most serious thing I've ever done in my life." I heard this test is super hard, and I was sitting there cramming. I got a 95 on the Series 7. And I walk into that place the next day and they like, yeah, it means nothing. You're probably not going to make it as a stockbroker if you think that test means anything. They ripped my heart out the first day I was there. And they're like, all right, great, kid, get on the phone and let's see what you got. And that was it. And that was it.
So
Smile and dial, baby.
were these places really as sketchy as they portray them in some of these movies?
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst stuff you saw? It was bad.
Well, the midget stories are real. I mean, I was at two firms. They
JC
all
tells us the same thing.
They all love midgets. I don't understand what's going on. But yeah, there was this one guy. I don't want to give his name. His dad was a fireman. This guy was a raging alcoholic. This dude, and he was the man. I mean, he was pitching. He was drinking just straight vodka out of like a 2 liter bottle, pitching at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the dude would kill it because he didn't care.
Right.
And I was like, "Do you even know what you're saying?" He's like, "Who the fuck cares? They don't know what I'm saying either. I just ask for the sale and shut up and we'll see who wins." And the dude was doing 30, 40 grand a month, and it was insane. And he had no idea what he was doing. He would just rip people to shreds. And he would turn to me. He's like, "People love it when I rip them apart. They love it." And I'm like, I couldn't do it. I was a schmoozer. I'm the funny guy. I'm just trying to be nice. He's like, "Nice guys finish last. Now get the fuck out of here." And it was crazy. It was competitive. And I remember one time I came in, maybe some hair on my face. My manager comes up to me, scrapes a credit card against my face. He says, "You want to work here?" I'm like, "What? What's up?" He's like, "You don't come in here with that hair on your face." I'm like, "Well, what if I want to embrace my Judaism and grow a beard?" "You'd be fired." That's what he said to me. It's like, this is the sickest place ever. Like, these guys don't give a shit about anything. And
It's like a George Steinbrenner. He thinks it's the New
It's
York
like
Yankees.
playing for the Yankees.
yeah, it was just unbelievable. But what it really came down to is that I finally, I built a book and I was doing all right. And it was just everybody seemed to be able to cash out of the IPOs except us. They kept calling us mushrooms. I never understood what that was. And until alcoholic guy, he's like, "You know why they call you a mushroom, right? They keep you in the dark and they feed you shit." And I was like, "Oh, all right, I think I'm going to quit." And that was it. Yeah, that was one. I was like, "You know what? I'm out." And then I was at a Pearl Jam concert at I think Randall's Island, one of the Lollapaloozas, and I'm standing around just miserable because I'm just like done with this industry. And I saw an old fraternity brother, and he starts talking about SOs and SelectNet and how we're able to trade our own accounts now. It's a whole new thing that's coming. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll come and check it out. And that was it. I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. So you got into the brokerage business because somebody saw you at a comedy show. You
Yeah.
got into the trading business because you ran into somebody at a Pearl Jam show, Lollapalooza.
Absolutely. Yep.
Sounds like you should be doing more shows, man. Hanging out at more events.
Yeah, totally. But good things happen. Good things happen. Again, there's a few people. Again, we've all know if you've been in the industry long enough, there's a handful of people that you could trust, and everybody else is, out for themselves.
So Kenny, you and I both started trading during the SOS era. I caught the tail end of it. Like I started in '98.
Yeah.
But let's school young Straza over here about how in the late '90s, early 2000s, that market that we learned to trade in We haven't seen anything like that since. We've had some echoes. The crypto kind of reminds us what's going on in crypto right now reminds us of that .com era, but you have to agree with me that we haven't seen anything like that since then.
I kind of agree, but don't agree because the action lately in the last 2 years, especially when, the COVID hit and we're all sitting there gambling and going, and the market was going crazy. I mean, look at what Carvana did. I mean, some of the Zooms and, some of those
GameStop.
that was,
2020 was weird, dude.
yeah, it was very reminiscent of that market. The one thing that's completely different is that I never looked at a chart. I was a momentum trader. That's all we knew. So you were basically buying, the dip and the rip. That was the only trade I knew. If the stock broke prior day high, momentum would kick in. And I just was not accustomed to stocks doing what they were doing because nobody ever seen that. You'd buy Yahoo at $25. Next thing you know, it's at $27.50. You think you're doing all right. You sell it. Next thing at 35, gaps up 10 points the next day, and then it doubles. You're like, what am I doing here? I mean, why bother trade? Just let's buy some stocks and hang in there. I mean, it was the craziest thing in the world, especially the .com. I don't know if you guys remember amen.com. It was a company that legitimately sold Bibles, but then they announced they're going to sell Bibles on the internet, and the stock went from like 20 cents to $30. I mean, but you are still seeing ridiculousness like that in this market right now. I mean, look at what we're seeing almost on a daily basis. You're seeing $2 stocks rip to 25, 30. And then again, the pump and dumps are alive and well.
Here's the big difference, though, Ken. And I was talking to somebody about this just the other night. Someone who's very new to trading and was like asking me, like, "Oh, have you ever seen anything like this?" And I was like, "You haven't seen nothing, kid." What was really different in the late '90s during the .com bubble and the IPO craze is that you and I, Kenny, we could go anywhere, and everybody was trading stocks. Oh, everybody. Yeah. Everybody was opening up an E-Trade account. Everybody was buying the latest IPO. Everybody was trading pets.com. Your fucking uncle who never had anything other than a savings bond his whole life is trading friggin' Yahoo, right? Absolutely. I mean, that was going on in the late 90s. That's not happening now. I mean, we see sprinkles of it in crypto. People talk about it in crypto, but it's nothing like the way it was so pervasive in the late 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, right? I mean, I can even remember the guys that were at my desk. Guy was a kosher pizza place. That's what he owned. Next thing you know, he's a trader. This guy was, he was like an accountant that just wanted some more action. This guy was a contractor. He was doing bathrooms and backyards, and everybody was a trader. And it didn't matter. As long as you had some money to plop down, you got your 50-to-1 leverage. Remember those days? Put $5,000 in an account. Sure, you can trade $1 million. Go for it, guy. You don't have no experience whatsoever. Oh, you lost the $5,000? All right, thank you. It really was. It was the Wild West. But I'm telling you, trading today is, I think the environment we're in right now, these last 3 years, is pretty reminiscent, except for the fact that, I guess we call ourselves professionals, pseudo professionals.
I feel like a lot of people do too much on this, right? Like you could go find an analog chart on Twitter every day, or somebody comparing Cisco of 1999 to NVIDIA today. From a sentiment perspective, like having been through past cycles, having seen the .com bubble, are you looking for like little behaviors and and constantly like asking yourself, oh, this is frothy, I remember this from the late 90s? Or do you just, times change and you don't want to overthink that stuff?
Well, as a perma bear, because of where I came from, again, I'm very skeptical of most stocks. And again, if you do your research, most stocks do stink. I mean, 70% of stocks just roll over and they're into obscurity again. But what I learned over the last 20 or 30 years is that the shorters overstay their welcome every time. So no matter how bearish I get and what I see and what I think I see and how bad it could get, it never lasts. Because I absolutely destroyed myself being a bear, after we came out of the 08, 09 catastrophe and we rallied, and for 2, 3, 4 years, I'm like, okay, enough is enough. Let's start going down. And I kept fighting the market and I got crushed. But what I learned from there is that don't do that again. This market perpetually goes up. And again, it's a club. If the top 100 stocks, if you're not qualified, they kick you out of the club to keep the chart going from left to upper right.
Let's stay on this for a minute. So this was a seminal moment for you as a market professional. Did you blow up a little bit trying to get short after the financial crisis lows?
Oh yeah, I mean it was one big trade. I was short the Qs, had my biggest position on in my life, and I remember.
How were you doing it? Long puts or you were just short?
Yeah, I know exactly what I had. 8,000 QQQ short. I had 1,200 in the money puts. So it got nasty. And the thing is, it was green at one point. And I remember the day the market was rolling over. I'm high fiving everybody, talking about how I'm going to make a million on this trade. And one guy's like, "Hey, buddy, you might want to get back to your desk. Morgan Stanley just upgraded the world, and the market was just ripping." And I went dry mouth, deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm not taking this loss. I was just up 70 grand in this position. Fuck this, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I had to get out of some. It took me about 2 weeks to finally take the bloodbath. And then as a shorter, if you guys are out there, the very next pause the market took, this was it. This is the one. Got to get back short, and got crushed again. And I just couldn't get out of my own way. And next thing you know, it was 18 months later and I'm broke. And it was just nasty. And I didn't even tell my wife about it. I used to go into the city pretending I had a job. I would go see the movie, do anything but sit at that desk. And that's when I was doing my live show. And I'll give Zach Hurwitz credit. Brian Shannon. I always give Brian Shannon a shout out, and Zach Hurwitz. He started watching me trade when I got back to the desk. He's like, the lines you're drawing are right there with volume weighted average price. And I was like, who cares about VWAP? Because all I knew was from being a broker, it's just an institutional number at the end of the day that you gauge whether or not you did good or not. And he's like, no, it's much more than that. And as he explained it to me, I was like, all right, this makes sense. And I just started watching it. I was like, wow, this really gels with the way that I like to look at the market. And basically since 2014, so I do. I only look at VWAP. I don't look at anything else. No moving averages, no stochastic, Bollinger Bands, regression channels, none of that.
All right, listen, I promised I would make you cry. So here's my attempt right now. Take me back to that moment when you said for 18 months you didn't tell your wife that you were losing your ass. You were going into work, or going into the city pretending to work. Did you ever have a moment, or were there a series of moments where you were like, I have to quit. I have to leave this business for good. I'm done. And if so, how did you turn that around?
Yeah, my dad, really. I mean, I knew I didn't want to ask my father to borrow. I didn't want to borrow money from my father, but I knew if I could get back on track, he could, give me a little nut there, another, a 30K nut that I could probably get back on the horse. But oh yeah, I didn't think I was going back. So that's why, when Howland's on and he did the Wall Strip, I was like, somebody's trying to be funny about Wall Street. Let me get back into the swing of things. And I started trying to be funny again and just getting there. But oh man, I did not think I was coming back. No, I just wandered the streets. I didn't know what to do, and then I just plopped back down, and I just got back into it. And then I just started building from there. And and I say this all the time. I'm still learning, even though I'm very focused on what I do. I still learn a little bit every day. I don't mind taking nuggets of wisdom from wherever I can get. And we, just keep building. And now the stories, the experience that I've learned from, obviously as a shorter, I parlay that information to other people now. And that's my saving grace right at this point. So I love opening people's eyes to the blatant manipulation of the market. And, when you just focus price, like, JC and all of us do, you really kind of see through all the nonsense. And that's where we're at right now. But oh yeah, I was down the dumps, man. I didn't know what I was doing. I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of friends in the park.
Yeah. When you were making that comeback slowly, I'm sure. Yeah. Were you still working at a prop firm, or were you like independent doing your own thing?
When did I finally stop just going in? I think when was about 2016, 2017. So I was still kind of making my way back. I was going from firm to firm, looking for leverage, and, a couple of places they wanted you to sit at the desk all day. I was like, I'm about making the money and leaving, make a day's pay and go away. And a couple of places they didn't really want me to leave. They wanted me to generate profits for them and commissions. So really it was again, 2018, 2017, I guess, where really just started plopping myself back at home, got the website up and running again. And it's been a nice little build from there. But
And when did you start your chat room?
well, it's been off and on. Originally, you know, if it started with this.
Yes, but that was what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
This was '07, I think.
Yeah, it was
Right.
a while, ways back.
Yeah. So it's a little blurry at this point because I've been doing this for so long. But the NASDAQ themselves, they were trying to find me. I had filed for the website under an assumed name because it was a joke. I put it under a fake name at my parents' address, and they couldn't find me. Ooh, they were
They
pissed
send
off.
you like a cease and desist and try to
Oh
stop
yeah,
you?
yeah. But I never got any of them because I didn't. The address was kind of like my parents' old address.
Oh, that's
So
great.
when they found me, they were mad. It was a team of lawyers and me. I was like, the website doesn't do anything. He's like, well, you used our name. I'm like, but we don't do anything. We just hang out in a chat room and talk shit all day. Not about you. Oh, they were mad. And then I changed it to Hit the Bid. We went to Vegas, and here we are.
And now you got a crazy group of animals that follow you every day, and you share ideas back and forth, right? And you're kind of like a mentor to everybody.
Yeah, you know what? And some of the guys, when this market pivoted, I had a couple of guys that I trained. They are much better at swing trading and hanging on to positions. And I just took a little bit of, I became such a day trader that I'm so short-sighted, and I missed the bigger picture. Like, why am I taking this short profit when this thing looks like it's going to go there? So I've actually learned from people in the room as well, because they were all investors. Most of the people that have come were newbie day traders. They knew the word trading, but trading to them was buying and hoping, and just holding. So, but taking from them, again, we call this kid the my illegitimate Indian son. He met me when he was about 17. He actually looks like me. So we have this. There's a story I tell about me being an Indian and laying with a woman on the side of the road. And I've told the story so many times that people think it's true. The kid actually looks like me, but he's a much better trader than I am. He's still in AMD from when I got him in at $5. So
Wow.
he's sitting pretty. He's
That
still in from
ten,
from
10 years
$5.
ago?
What?
10 years ago?
Back whenever that Oktoberfest was, where my video got left on the cutting room floor. And when I did a quick interview, they're like, "What's your number one stock?" I'm like, "AMD. Stock will be 250 in 5 years."
First Oktoberfest was 2013, I believe.
Yeah.
I heard they're
So
bringing it back.
yeah, somewhere around there. The one where was the one?
Coronado.
Yeah, Coronado, right? Yeah.
That's where they started. Yeah. So
Yep.
for those who don't know what we're talking about, this is StockTwits. StockTwits used to do an annual conference that they may be bringing back this year. We're hearing some
So I'm
rumors.
hearing.
And I used to work at StockTwits, so I was heavily involved in those things. And I think that might have been the first time I met you, Kenny. But speaking of the first time I met you, the first time that I'm a little bit foggy on this, but I think the first time I ever became aware of Kenny Glick was there was a viral video of you shirtless, screaming. You had like your daughter on your lap, complaining about the market just ripping in your face. Was this during the flash crash?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
I
Okay.
was naked, all a bunch of puts on the queues, and my account flashed down 7 million at one point, and my daughter was getting off the bus. I'm sobbing. I was like, if they come for me, just tell them you don't know where I am.
So
But,
yeah, so
I
that
think
was 2010.
actually the first video that got me going was Josh Brown. He took, I
So
was again, any good comic, all you do is rip on yourself. So I was just tearing into myself about some bullshit, and he just put it on his blog, and I think it was like my new favorite stock idiot. That was it. And then and then I met Josh, and I think it was one of his gatherings where I met you in person for the first time with JC and Josh and
yeah.
a couple of those guys back when Malloy was involved, and a couple of the guys I forgot. It's a
Yeah.
blur. A lot of it's a blur.
It is a blur, man. I feel like the last 15 years since social media came into the stock trading space, it's like it's all been a blur
Yeah.
because we've all met so many people from that.
I would
Yeah.
love to tell my story about the first time I met Kenny, but I don't think it would be appropriate for this format.
I think you have to say it now. Come on. We can edit this out later if we need to.
No, this was like 7 or 8 years ago. Kenny had no idea who I was. I very much knew who he was. We were in line at some shitty fintech conference. The open bar had just opened up, so there's just like a crowd, like a massive crowd of people, like harassing the bartenders. And he and I are like rubbing shoulders in line together, and we start talking. And he turns to me and goes, "Do you have a weed pen?"
I remember that. I think I stole it, right? Did I take it?
Yeah, we smoked it. Yeah. So, but your attitude is important. You were just talking about being open-minded, learning from your own clients, right? Which is something that we do. And I think we're so lucky to just interact with all these different people. Yeah. We can sit up here and act like we know everything, or I can be like, oh, I've never heard of this ticker. That's great. What does it do? Why do you like it, right? And we learn so much that way. Absolutely. Another important thing I think about your attitude, you're always having fun. Sean's that way. JC's that way. The people who I tend to surround myself with are that way. I think I've become that way. What we do is very serious. There's money on the line. It's very real. Talk about how it's important to have fun. And like, I think this is a hallmark of you and what you do and your whole brand.
Well, it's having fun / not taking it too seriously. You know, again, I trade better, again, not only going to get into the size of your position and all of that, but try to have fun with trading. It takes off the anxiety. And once you take off the anxiety, you tend to just do what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You know all the mistakes you've made. So if you try to take it down a notch and not take it too serious, that's where you start doing much better. And again, just never look at your P&L. You know if you're doing well. Just try to have some fun with it and, do what you got to do. I have a little bit more fun than most people because, I really just think of this as like a big video game, especially since I've been trading VWAP and only focusing on price. It really is a video game. And, take out the whole who's buying what and insiders are doing this and who the president is and interest rates. None of that matters. None of it. And it's you get right down to what matters. And, again, for me, it is fun. And I'm lucky, just like we are lucky, that we get to, give this wisdom. And again, that's what it is. 30 years. I'm not a smart guy. I'm a wise guy. I've seen enough where I could bestow this. I guess my ass kickings have finally taught me enough that I could bestow this wisdom upon other people so they won't make the same mistakes I do. And that makes it a lot of fun. Yeah, that makes it a lot of fun for me.
It sounds like your process has become increasingly systematized.
Yeah. Even though I hate that word, if you're, again, everyone's got a system, but it is. It's very specific. And again, that's why for me now, it's easier to teach what I do because it is very systematic. It's very, very select. It's very niche. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it. And again, for me, it's the only thing that I do. Obviously, you could take it to different time levels, day trading leads into the swing, leads into the investment. But yeah, just staying focused. That's what it's all about.
All right. So Kenny, we know you have a sense of humor. We know you like to keep it light and you've been doing this a long time, but when you shut the computer down, what are you doing? Because you don't look like a guy. This is a compliment, by the way. You don't look like a guy who's been trading for 30 years. You look young. You look healthy.
I know, it's crazy.
What's your secret? I mean, look at Straz. Yeah. Straz looks like an 80-year-old.
Yeah, you look so good, dude. I'm fucked. Yeah, no, I know.
What's your secret, Kenny?
I stopped smoking cigarettes 7 years ago. That was awesome.
Congrats.
I cut the alcohol out to maybe once a week now, which is phenomenal. I lost 12 pounds. I didn't think I had 12 pounds to lose. I think it's the attitude, really. But look. I mean, I used to have hair, dude. So that went away with trading. I have no choice, but I have to stay positive because I'm an entertainer / trader. So I have to stay positive because nobody wants to hear me wallowing in misery because I could wallow in misery like nobody. I mean, I can still tell you stories that I'm not over from 1992 when stocks got taken over the day I didn't buy the option on them. So I got misery. Oh man, I can keep pills right there. That helps a lot. But going back to the not taking it too serious, that's really where it's at. I don't take myself serious whatsoever. And that's what I think people like about me. And I think on my epitaph of these, I thought he was crazy, but he really knew what he was talking about. And
Yeah,
I don't mind. I used to get upset when people would say that. That's exactly what I'm all about.
that's been my experience with you.
Yeah, people think I'm
I've
out of my
known
fucking
you.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just
what do
because
you
I'm
think?
outspoken, I just like to, shoot the shit. That's what else are you gonna do in life?
So what do you think about this whole like I know nothing attitude? Does the market do that to us, or we have these personalities and they naturally lend themselves to the market, and that's why we find the market? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the idea that the market knows more than us.
Yeah, you're basically just saying, I don't overthink anything, right? The market knows best. That attitude, does the market teach it to us, or do we find the market because that's in us?
I think the market basically taught me that,
Yep.
and
I would
it
agree with
showed me,
that.
it showed me who's boss. That's for sure.
Yep.
Just when you think you're figuring something out, no, you don't got nothing figured out. And again, I'm not saying I have it all figured out now. I just know that what I'm doing now, it works. I keep it on a small scale. Again, not to take it too serious, but the market has humbled me to no end. Like I said, I wandered the earth for 18 months, not knowing what I was going to do with my life. So, absolutely. I mean, the market has shown me who's boss. I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but I
Does
think the market has taught me everything.
Yeah.
And
It teaches
it
us to go with the
humbles?
flow. Oh, sorry.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I think it humbles and hardens us over time.
yeah,
Yeah.
In,
absolutely.
in
And
a
I,
nice.
again, I take a lot of lessons from my father also. It's funny how I lost my way. If I would have been a little bit more patient like my dad, my life would be, I mean, just my life's all right, but I'd have that, I guess you could call it FU money. Because my dad, if I had just that little element of patience and, because he never understood day trading, because he looks at it as like, so you bought 3,000 shares of Path at 25. So you laid out 75 grand to make 13 cents? What's wrong with you? I'm like, Dad, it's not, you're not really laying out 75 grand. It's just, that's what it is. You're buying 3,000 shares. It moves an eighth of a point. You take the money. He's like, you're an idiot. it's like just buy the market. It never goes down. I'll see you in 5 years. I'll make more money than you do. And he does. So, I mean, Big Al never fails. The guy's taken one loss, and it was a big loss. And that loss taught him, you know what? If I stay with high quality stocks, chances are I could just cost average my way out of any trade. He took a beating in Texas Instruments maybe 10 years ago. My dad has really never taken a loss since because he sticks with strong. He's a QQQ spy guy, and he bought dips. He sells puts. He sells calls against his positions, and that's what he does, and he knows it works.
It's I think it's generational, dude. Like some of these dads
Yeah,
just know how to invest.
yeah,
And Texas Instruments is such a dad stock. Like they
it
made
really is.
calculators before there were computers. My dad fucking loves that stock.
Yeah, yeah.
All
My
right.
dad still
So
Super
thinks, yeah,
disciplined.
he still
this
thinks
this is an
Kodak.
interesting. You just sparked an interesting idea here. Okay, so you two boys have talked about your dads and how they've affected you in the markets in one way or another. I'm curious to know, Kenny, you're a father. I'm a father. How has trading affected the way you parent, if at all? Because I feel like it's affected me big time.
Wow, that's a big question because the more you stare at the market, you start to feel like you're in the matrix. And I kind of like, again, as a non-practicing Jew, I married into a Catholic family, massive Catholic family, and my wife, Scots Irish, my kids were brought up. So I think that's kind of where my parenting kind of like not taking it too serious. Or when my kids are stressing about stuff, I'm like, oh, kid, this is nothing, So it's like you want to know stress? I'll show you some stress. Come here, I'll show him some stress. And
Watch this video of me shirtless.
yeah, I threw my son into the trading arena, and he was doing all right. Now he was just trading alongside with me. I was showing him, basically, and this is going out to everybody listening to here. I find it's easier to train somebody who knows absolutely nothing because you don't have to unteach them what they think they know. So my son knows nothing except VWAP. That's it. He knows price action and VWAP. He doesn't know anything else. And he was doing all right. But again, typical trader, he'd have 3 or 4 good days, small days, and then one big loss, and then 5 or 6 good days, one big loss. And again, we went over like, why did you make these mistakes? And it was always the same reason. Well, I figured it would come back, so I bought more. I'm like, yeah, but it broke the VWAP. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, there's your mistake. So I was like, it's so when it comes down to it, it's like that one mistake ruins a lot. And it's so hard not to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but as long as you limit those losses, and again, that's how I was explaining to him. And I look at it as almost like golf. I don't know if you guys play golf, but I never knew how much I didn't know about golf until I took a lesson. As I'm just walking over to take a swing, he's like, "Is that how you walk?" Yeah. He's like, "Is that how you pick up the club?" Oh, yes. He's like, "You're going to hold it like that?" I'm like, "Yes." And you guys tearing me apart. I didn't even get up to the swing yet. So it's kind of the same thing. So when I talk to people, I'm like, they're like, "Why do you hate investing? It seems like the market goes up." I'm like, because I was soured on it as a youngster from the boiler rooms and seeing all these pump and dumps and people getting suckered out of their money. So that was always my default, even though my dad was there doing tremendously well in mutual funds and the Qs and the SPYs. I was always so sour on the market because of what I saw and how the sausage was made and the awfulness of what I witnessed. And it's still in there. I'm still a little bit of negative Nancy. And that's why, like you guys are saying, you're a perma bear who owns 20 stocks. I'm like, yeah, because it is what it is.
You're talking about what you saw, right? So you found out at a young age, as an early professional, that the market was rigged.
Yeah,
a lot of people
worse than that
we interact with, right, and deal with will come to us and say, "Oh, I'm not buying this. The market's rigged." How is it? Is it not a superpower to know the market's rigged, understand how it's rigged, accept that it's rigged, and say, "This is still the arena that I have to play in."
Yeah.
And accept it and move on and be able to say, "Yeah, it's rigged. That's cool, though. I can still make money."
Yes. You just nailed it. That's exactly what I tell everybody. It is rigged. Let me show you the rigging. It's so like rigged. Right. Yeah. Let me show you the rigging. And that's why VWAP to me, that is the rigging. You see the rigging. There was a couple of days, I think it was last, whatever, I don't want to, whatever. The market just rips down. Everything's collapsing, but yet it goes to this exact price and that's where the support is. And then it starts to bounce. It really is rigged. But again, when you use that word, when you talk to my uncle, it's rigged. Nobody makes money in the market. I'm like, no, Unc, my dad makes money in the market. It's rigged to only go up. You seem to be the guy. See, and again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know when the bear market's going to start again, we call it the Rappaport indicator. When my uncle gets into the market, when I was a broker, Cisco had gone from like $6 to 80.
Sell.
Yeah, he calls me and he says, "What do you think about this Cisco stock? You're a stockbroker now." I'm like, "Well, it's up, 1,200% in the last 18 months. I'm not sure if you want to buy it here." He buys it. Market crashes. "I'm never getting in the market again." When does he get in? 2008. "I'm never getting into the market again." When does he get in? Right before COVID. So I haven't spoken to my uncle in a while. If he ever calls me, I will let everybody know. And we get the hell out of the market and short everything.
Yeah, will you give us the heads up when you get that call, please?
Oh yeah. Because if he's thinking of buying the Qs here at 620, what do you think? No.
So you have that guy who just always hits from a sentiment perspective. Sean, JC has abuela, right? Like he's got his woman. Do you have somebody? I don't have anybody. I don't have anybody in my life. Like sometimes I guess like my bug guy is always talking about the market at the worst times, but I don't really have good data on this. Will it come with time?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't have any one person, but I have like a ballpark of people. Like if all of a sudden I start getting contacted by people that I don't usually hear from and they're like generally asking me stock market questions, that tells me, okay, we're getting a little frothy here.
Got it. Yeah, I've decided already. We're in the middle of this cycle. I'm going to sell all my cryptos when I start getting invited to too many parties in Miami. Because I should have done that in early 2021 and I didn't listen.
All right, Kenny, let's start. We're not done, but let's start winding it down. Start bringing it home here. I want to get your opinion on something. This is something I feel strongly about, and it's kind of what this podcast series is about in a roundabout way. And that is, I believe, and I'm curious to know if you agree or disagree with this. I believe that trading is easy, but being a trader is hard. So what I mean is you could learn the X's and O's of trading, buy low, sell high. You could learn a VWAP strategy at a weekend seminar, right? You
Mhm.
could learn the tools to be successful. Yet so many people are not successful. So trading is easy, but being a trader is hard. Do you agree with that or disagree or what are your thoughts?
I hear what you're saying because, I try to say, listen, are you guys taking this as is this a hobby to you, or do you want to make this a career, or are you just doing it for fun? And that's the first thing I ask people when they join my website. Being a trader, you better dedicate your day. This is what you do. Okay. I don't want you, and I don't like to spoon feed people ideas because then you're definitely not learning anything, and you're only going to be as good as my run. But being a trader is completely different. Like trading, I would never call it easy because there's so much going on. But yeah, I do absolutely agree with you because being a trader, I never leave the desk. I'm here from basically 8 to 5. I'll go out and for a quick sprint just to get some sun on my face. But I'm a trader. This is what I do. I live and breathe this stuff, and I love it. Again, I love it, and I love the fact that the market has evolved and I've evolved with it, and I'm able to express this evolution to other people. I don't know what I would do without it. And again, I do definitely agree with what you said.
Well, I can't believe it was so easily agreed with me. That's great. I must be onto something, Strezza.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's been the toughest moment, right? Because it's never an easy path. You've been a trader for what, 30 years? What was the hardest part? What, like, you talked about what, 20 years ago? You felt like you weren't going to get out of it?
Yeah, well, the comeback was the hardest part. Just, accepting that the ego getting in the way. I mean, I really thought I was, I was killing it for a while. And then just to give it all back and then some, and to be broke, I had kids. This was a scary time for me. So that was by far the toughest moment of my life. Right now, the toughest moment for me in on day to day is walking away. I just love sitting here. Again, I wish there was a show going on or somebody was bringing me drinks. So I had a masseuse standing behind me because I would never leave.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the whole fun thing, it's fun for me and the entertainer, the edutainer, if I want to make a word, education, entertainment.
Container.
Yeah,
That's a
edutainer. There you go. Entertainment or something like that. There's got to be a word in there somewhere. But again, it has become more fun than ever for me. So that's again, maybe that's what's keeping me young right now, I guess. But
well, that's
the
our new
hardest
nickname
thing,
for
yeah,
you.
the hardest thing I ever saw, again, there's nothing that's ever going to compare to how awful I felt going from a hero to a zero and then being sub-zero. Nothing will ever compare to that.
So as much as that sucked, you wouldn't be here today without it though, because it taught you important lessons. You probably maybe got lucky earlier on in your career, learned a lot of the wrong lessons, and then blowing up like that forced you to learn the right tools and actually figure it out, have
Yep.
staying power in this game.
Yeah, and again, we've all been doing this for quite some time. All the cliches are real.
I know.
It's okay to be wrong, just don't stay wrong. And that was one of the hardest things. I would try to fight a losing trade, and it would always get worse. And what was heartbreaking is once you gave up, it seemed like that's when it got better. And you have to overcome that heartache, the frustration, the anxiety. And it's just like I said, I could still conjure up memories from 92, 95, 96 with option positions on. And, you just got to figure a way to, tamp that down a little bit. And, and the way I get through it is I tell the stories, and I just love these stories. And I've, again, some of these guys with me from 2007, they're like, oh, here comes the Jimmy story again. All right, here we go. Tell us the Jimmy story one more time. Because it's like the people that I've met, and most of the people that I met that have failed were delusional. And I was delusional also. That's when, again, the whole idea of being insane, when you keep doing the same thing that doesn't work, eventually it's going to start working. There are so many people that look at one thing and you just try to explain to them, but then they just don't accept it because their opinion is stronger than reality, and they just live that delusion. I'm like, listen, I don't know what to tell you. if you're going to continue to think this way, you're never going to make any money in the market. So
Dogmatic.
I've met so many delusional people in the industry, and again, being so open and with the way I am now, when I see people's flaws, knowing that I know their flaws because I am their flaw. If there was a mistake to be made, I made it. If there was an attitude to have that was wrong, I had the attitude. So now I see it, and I'm like, easily, no, you're doing something wrong, and I have no problem telling people that they're wrong now. Which
Do you think
that came with age.
Do you think this is something that you can tell them and teach them, or this is something that is much easier to learn via experience?
It's a combination. You're never really gonna. I say there's a movie, the prison movie. Anyway, the line was, "Lessons learned not in blood are often forgotten." I think it was where the Jamie Foxx movie, and no one's gonna forget when you get punched in the face. The Iron Mike Tyson thing, lessons, getting punched in the face, whatever he said. But through experience, you're never gonna forget it. You get your ass kicked, you remember. So that's why when I tell these stories about why I got my ass kicked, there's a reason I got my ass kicked. This is what I did wrong. This is where I made it worse. So I think through that, I can teach people through the experiences, but nothing is more, the strongest thing that you're going to ever learn is on your own through the experience. So again, that's exactly what I try to do, teach through my experience.
Well, Kenny, the trading world is better for you being in it. We're glad you're here.
Thanks.
Your new nickname is the Edutainer. Kenny, the Edutainer.
There you go, Edutainer.
There it is.
Couldn't figure it out myself.
So we're making some news here. We have a new nickname for Kenny. You got a lot of nicknames, by the way, but that's the newest one.
Yeah.
Seriously, Kenny, this is awesome. I'm so glad we had you on as our second guest.
I appreciate it, man.
You're one of the guys. Really?
One of the guys.
Like these are the conversations that we want to have. This is the stuff we want to talk about. I think a lot of traders have learned from you. I called one of my buddies who's in the room with you. I think most mornings I said, what should I ask him? He wanted me to ask before we go, how many keyboards have you broken?
Oh, I've stopped doing that. I actually stopped doing it. I think it was when I tried to break the Apple keyboard. There was a metal plate behind it. Oh.
And you're smashed with the samurai sword or something, right?
Yeah. Oh, but then the funny thing is, we got a bid out of it. I was like, I'm going to smash a keyboard against my head. Whatever keys pop off first, we'll just buy that stock. And it worked.
Who's having more fun than Kenny? Right there.
Exactly, right. Let's go smash some keyboards against my head. By the way, yeah, I got a pretty hard skull, so. But yeah, it is. Like I said, I can't say it enough. I am having a lot of fun now, so that's why. And again, with you guys, and it's amazing how long we've known each other. And with JC, it's like 15 years now, maybe almost 20 years. Yeah. And the evolution of Josh Brown, it's been like he was on my website, pitching stuff back in the day. It's crazy. So life has been it's been a wild ride, and I think it's only getting better right now. Now. I love this market. Like I said, I really do think it's kind of like the 90s all over again. I don't think it's a bubble like it was.
Who cares? Who cares if it's a bubble? Let it be a bubble.
There you go. That's one of the lessons I learned. Who cares?
I'm so upset when someone labels something a bubble. So what? That means there's action. That means we can make money on it.
And it better be a bubble. It took me 20 years to appreciate that. Again, even with Bitcoin. When I first heard of Bitcoin, they said, "Oh, only the drug dealers and money launderers and bad governments are using it." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want any part of that." What the hell was I thinking? The drug dealers are involved. I should have ran to this thing. If the drug dealers and the money launderers are involved, oh no, I'm holier than thou. That's too shady for me. Bro, oh my God, what was I thinking?
My drug dealers don't accept cash anymore.
It's only Venmo, Cash App. That's so funny.
All right, Kenny, look, we promised we'd only keep you an hour, and we've exceeded it by a couple of minutes here. So, dude, awesome. Thanks for doing this, man. Like Steve said, you're one of the guys, man.
A legend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love talking shop. I love this stuff, man. Anytime you want to do some more. And I gotta get you guys out. We should shoot the shit on a Thursday night one day on my website. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Even
man.
better, I wanna have a night out in New Jersey with Kenny Glick. That's what I want.
Dude.
Come on. Yeah, hey, we do the Grateful Dead meetup. So we play Dead.
Hey, speaking of, if you find yourself with an extra ticket to that Sphere show, this guy, don't forget.
July 11th. If you're willing to, it's going to be 105 degrees that week, but we're going. I might take a family, so we might all go as a collective. It'd be nice.
If somehow one of those tickets is unspoken for, I will be on the first flight out.
Cool, man. I'll let you know. Yeah, I mean, they're still out there, so I'm going July 10th, 11th, and 12th. Right at the last 3 shows.
Love it. I'm already jealous. All right, Kenny, thanks for doing this, buddy. Keep trading well. Keep being you. We all love it. And we'll talk to you again soon, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Great seeing you, man.